Hello. It's great to be here. It's a big stage. So, yeah, that's me, Eric Darnell. I'm the Chief Creative Officer of Baobab Studios. I got really excited about computers back in the early 80s and then found my way ultimately to CalArts, where I got my master's in experimental animation, which is what computers were at the time. And then from there I found my way to DreamWorks, did some stuff there. Most notably, I was the director on Ants, the first film they released back in '98, and then I went on to be a director and writer on all these Madagascar movies. And that was 20 years of my life. And then I decided to see if there was something else I could do to kind of rekindle the excitement that I felt when I was just getting involved with computers back in the 80s. And somebody put a VR headset on me, and I was blown away. I partnered up with Maureen Fan. She was vice president at Zynga at the time, in charge of hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue every year for their IP. Larry Cutler, who mastered in VR at Stanford in the 90s, realized he was too soon to make a go of it, and so he went to Pixar, worked on some of their best films, then went to DreamWorks, led the character technology department, and won an Academy Award for the work that he did. You can see some of our advisors down at the bottom there. Point out Alvy Ray Smith and Glenn Entis, who have helped us quite a bit. They both started computer animation startups back when they were the only computer animation startups in the world. And you'll recognize some of those other faces. Clicker, go. So what we love about animation is art in motion. It takes you to worlds that you could never go to in reality. And it delivers those worlds to you in a way that feels real, in a sense. It feels tangible, that you could reach out and touch the fur of that lion or that tree and know what it would feel like. And that's a lot what VR can do, too. It immerses you in these worlds, but you know, what it can't do unless you put it in yourself. Oh, I'm going backwards now. Stand by. What it can't do is tell stories unless you have a story to tell. And you need characters to tell that story. And that's what we're most interested in doing at Baobab, is immersive storytelling in VR. So that's our vision, that's our goal, to inspire people to dream. Now, what I want to do is show a short video that'll give you a little bit of background on our company. We're based in Redwood City. We've got about 16 full-time employees, and we've been around for about 3 years.
At Baobab Studios, we're focused on doing immersive storytelling in virtual reality with characters that audiences can fall in love with.
When I watch animation, I feel that I'm taken back to that 5-year-old sense of self where I thought anything was possible. And our mission is to inspire the world to dream by bringing out your sense of wonder.
Whoa. I had been working for over 20 years directing feature animated films and put on a VR headset for the first time. It blew me away. It's like this undiscovered frontier.
We see virtual reality as a new medium for telling stories and creating great cinematic experiences that are character-driven. It allows people to be taken to places and to worlds that otherwise wouldn't exist.
When audiences saw Invasion, they reacted to the world and the characters in ways that we never imagined. And that interactivity and that connection and that eye contact was really significant, and we realized we were really onto something. So then when hand controllers came out, we started our next piece, Asteroids, determined to make the viewer a character inside this story that had hands that could actually interact with the world around them.
Crow the Legend was a piece that we always wanted to do from the very beginning. It started off as a Native American folktale that was spread through word, and we are turning it into a VR animation to take the story to the next level.
Hey, that sounds like
Crow!
Another way we look at what we're doing at Baobab Studios is to take advantage of what we already know about the empathy of filmmaking and cinema and the interactivity of games and the motivation to act that we have in real life when things really matter and we really care. And so when we have all those pieces of the puzzle working together, then we have an experience that's unlike an experience you could have in any other medium.
So like I said, storytelling is really a key to what we're doing. A lot of people talk about storytelling in VR, but there's a lot of different kinds of storytelling. Journalistic stories, the story you tell after a VR experience. But really, we're talking about classic traditional storytelling with, multi-act structure, inciting incident, progressive complications that end in a climax that's unexpected yet in reflection inevitable. And try to build those into a VR experience. We're not trying to invent a new storytelling wheel. Storytelling's been around for thousands and thousands of years. It's in our DNA. We want to tap into what we already have up here. So I want to talk a little bit more about this bunny. We worked on this piece for several months and kind of forgot in a way what we were doing. And when we took it out in front of audiences, we were really surprised at the reaction. Now, what you're going to see is a movie. And so when this little bunny named Chloe comes up and looks at the camera lens, basically, that's like any actor, breaking the fourth wall, they call it, because it just doesn't quite work. But when you're in VR and you have this whole world around you and the snow is falling wherever you look and the clouds are going by overhead and a little bunny comes out and looks you in the eye, and even if you move over here, she follows you and maintains eye contact, that's a completely different kind of experience. And so when this is happening for viewers in a VR headset, they're not just sitting there watching like they might in a theater. They're reaching out and trying to touch the bunny. They're talking to the bunny. They're hopping around and mimicking what she's doing. And so when we saw audiences do this, we realized there's something really special and unique about VR that we want to tap into. In Asteroids, as I said in the video, we had hand controllers, so there's a lot more we could do with interactivity. But I didn't want to do some branching story concept, pick your own adventure thing based on the choices you made. I wanted to be able to control the story the way that I always have when I worked in cinema, and yet still give the viewer a sense that they mattered, that they were important in the story, and that they were important to the characters. And so instead of thinking of it as branching stories, we thought of it as branching emotions. And I can give you a simple example. Like if there's a button to push or a lever to pull, the character in the story may say, "Hey, could you please push that button for me?" And if you do it, they'll be happy that you did, and they'll say, "Thanks a lot, that was a big help." And they like you maybe more because of what you've done to help them out. You don't have to push the button. If you don't push the button, they may get frustrated with you. And they may find another way to push the button. But the point is that your relationship and your emotional journey is changing. And we can do that because we're running this stuff in real time. It's animation, so we can run it in real time. We can generate 90 frames a second. That's 11 milliseconds a frame twice for each eye. And we can react to what the viewer does and create an experience that feels believable, where you really feel like this character knows that you're in their world and that it matters to them. And it changes what it does based on the things that you do. In John Legend, we came up with a different sort of paradigm for the interactivity because the viewer is the spirit of the seasons. They're invisible, but they have these great powers. And we got rid of using all the buttons and triggers on the hand controllers, instead just did a gestural thing. So you could basically go like this and make the snow fall, or the flowers grow, or the sun come out. And by bringing these seasons to planet Earth and the animals for the first time, you actually are the author of the inciting incident, and then you follow these animals along the way as they try to deal with what it means to live with seasons and help them with the powers that you have. One of the ways I think about this stuff that we do is this idea of a little girl crying on a park bench, all by herself, too young to be by herself. What do you do if you see something like that? Well, if it's a film, you don't do anything. You sit there. You may have great empathy for the little girl, but there's no expectation of any kind of interactivity. In games, you might interact with the girl right away, but it's probably not motivated by empathy. It's probably motivated by the fact that you're in a game and you want to win the game, and you'll get some information from her, something you need to get to the next level, etc. In life, you're immersed in life, of course, and you have the motivation of life, which comes from caring about this girl and being able to go talk to her. And you can do that same thing in VR. One final thing that I want to leave you with is this anecdote. I heard a bit of it on a podcast called Radiolab, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with, and then picked up Robert Sapolsky's book, Behave, which came out in 2017. Sapolsky is a neuro-indo something or other at Stanford, and a really bright guy. And he was interested in what is it that makes people risk their own lives to save somebody else who's in trouble. And his hypothesis was that they must be capable of having so much empathy, just overflowing with empathy, feeling the pain of that other person, really connecting with the suffering, that they can't help themselves but to leap into that burning car and pull those teenagers out before they die. So when he went and talked to some of these people who have done these heroic acts, he asked them, what were you thinking before you leapt into that burning car or whatever else you did to risk your own life to save someone else's? And their answer was, surprising to him, their answer was, I didn't think. I just did it. And when he got in a little deeper with them, he learned that they had actually lived their entire lives with compassion. They had been brought up by their parents to be compassionate. If you see somebody suffering, if you see somebody in trouble, if you see somebody in pain, another human being needs your help. And so you need to step out and do the right thing and help them. And so these people have been practicing compassion their entire lives. It became a part of who they were. So when the big event happened, the life-defining event for them and perhaps and certainly for the other person, they didn't think about it. They just did what they naturally do. They leapt into action. And so I'd like to, hope that on some tiny little level, that if I can provide stories with characters that audiences can fall in love with and feel like they get to know enough, that when they make a decision to take some kind of action, it's not because they want to win or because they want to get to the next level, but it's because there's actually some sense of a connection going on. Of course, it's manufactured. Of course, you have to suspend your disbelief. Of course, the stakes are low. But maybe in experiences that we make at Baobab, and hopefully experiences that other studios will make, after people take their headset off, after they've been practicing little acts of compassion, they'll be a little bit more compassionate in real reality. Thanks a lot for coming, you guys. Appreciate it.